and we're here to bring you the latest on our local professional sports and our high school sports here at Scotch Plains High School. Going to do something a little bit different today, though. We have 5 topics. Number 5 will be 5 minutes, number 4 will be 4 minutes, and so on. So let's start off with our 5-minute topic, and our producer Jack will hit the gong when the time expires. Let's start with number 5. Number 5, the NFL playoff recaps from this week and our predictions for the conference championships.
That's right. We had some really intense games this weekend. Of course, you got coming out of the NFC, you got the Packers and the Seahawks with wins. Seahawks had a dominating win against the Panthers at home, as a lot of people expected. Packers, of course, won on that very controversial call at the end of the game, that Dez Bryant catch, whether or not it was one. That's undetermined, but the refs felt it was not a catch. And then in the AFC, you got the Colts pulling off the big upset against the Broncos, and the Patriots holding their own against the Ravens. So how do you think the AFC and NFC championship games are going to play out?
Honestly, I think the NFC championship, I think it's going to be what everyone thinks it is. You know, Aaron Rodgers, he's playing really well, but he's got a partially torn right calf on his throwing foot. On his back foot, on his release foot. So I think that with that and him not being able to run as much, the Seahawks are going to go back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
So
I think that defensive line of the Seahawks is just going to devour Rodgers. I think that Lacey's not going to have a whole lot of running room, and I think that with the dominating defense and Wilson playing at a very consistent level, not turning the ball over, I think that the Seahawks are also going to advance to the Super Bowl for another year.
Yeah, I do too. And I think they can repeat. They're going to be the only team besides New England who could do that in the last few years if that does happen.
And speaking of New England, how do you think they're going to fare against the Colts at home in the AFC Championship game?
It's a tough one because the Colts have a much better defense than New England does.
That's right.
New England's defense has been playing pretty well because they are always criticized for that because they always do give up a lot of points.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think the Colts are going to take that game because
you think they're going to keep the momentum going?
Yeah, Andrew Luck has just been playing unbelievable the entire season, and this, I think, is his year. He definitely deserves that Super Bowl ring or that Super Bowl appearance if he doesn't get a ring. He definitely deserves that, and I think the Colts are going to definitely take that one.
Yeah, you made a lot of good points there, but I think that Andrew Luck, what he's trying to do, he's trying to usher in this new quarterback era. He's trying to eliminate the Bradys and the Mannings, but I think that Brady's not ready to give up yet. I think playing at home in front of that Foxborough crowd is just it's going to be too overwhelming for Luck. I don't think he has the postseason experience that Brady has, and I think that experience, along with the weapons that he has on the offensive side of the ball, I think that's going to propel them to another Super Bowl, and I really like their chances against Seattle.
Yeah, plus they're just like Seattle. If you look at the Colts, they are very similar to the Seahawks. They're a good, young core of a team, and they have, a lot of youngsters on there, and they're all just, really athletic and fast.
And I think that that power running game that the Patriots have developed, I think that'll really help open up the play-action pass for Brady and the rest of that offense. And I think that Belichick and Brady, that duo, they've just been too dominating, not only in the regular season but in the postseason. We've seen they had 3 Super Bowls together. And I think that combination, that gel between quarterback and coach, is something that's really hard to overcome, even with a dominating defense that some of the other teams that they will face have. And I think that that's what it's going to come down to in both the AFC Championship game and if they advance into the Super Bowl.
So your Super Bowl prediction is?
I got the Patriots beating the Seahawks 28-24.
Wow. That's pretty bold. I have the Seahawks beating the Colts, and I'm going to say it's going to be 35-28.
High-scoring affair, huh?
Well, because they're both very high-scoring teams. I mean, you can't really go wrong with it.
All right.
So, thank you, Jack.
All right, moving on to
NBA. Right?
NBA. We got all sorts of basketball to talk about.
Yes, we do. NBA, Nets and the Knicks. Mikhail Prokhorov, the Nets owner, has just put the Nets up for sale. $223 million. Hey, you want to go buy them?
Hey, yeah, sure. Let me just pull out my wallet. I got that kind of money on me.
Hey, well, the Nets are having a disappointing year as no one really expected, as they did give up a lot of their first-round picks in the previous years. The Nets are now totally just it seems like they're just flunking.
Yeah, it's a disaster right now in New York with both the Knicks and the Nets. A lot of people had high expectations for the Nets coming out of last year. Very solid performance in the playoffs and the regular season, but all they've done so far is just fall apart. Their veterans are just not playing at the level that they're expected to, and I think that that failure of leadership and talent is really what's bringing them down a notch. They just don't have the offensive firepower that a lot of these other teams have, and I think until they find that person that can really spark their offense, they're going to continue to lose games, and if that happens, they're looking for a long next few years.
Yeah, and I think that the same goes for the Knicks as well, because like the Nets did kind of like what the Knicks did. The Knicks signed a big superstar in Carmelo Anthony, who at the time was even better than he is now. And the Nets did the thing with their superstar Darren Williams, who at the time people were comparing to Chris Paul because he was very good at the time. And they decided, let's build around a superstar.
That's right.
So they developed Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez turned it out to be a very good player, having a disappointing year this season and last season with injuries. And then they get Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson had a fantastic season last year. I mean, the guy was an unbelievable basketball player and was one of the most clutch players in the league, hitting a lot of game-winning shots. But now this year, he scores a lot. But it seems like he's not the guy to go to at the buzzer anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that clutch factor is also not really present considering they're out of most games by the third quarter, so they can't really use him in those end-of-game situations because at that point they've already lost, so there's no really shot at a game-winning opportunity. And I think that they don't have the young guys that they've had in the past. A lot of their guys are now old, like Garnett and Williams, and I think that without those first-round draft picks that you mentioned, it's going to be really hard for them to rebuild.
They don't have a pick till 2018.
Exactly. They really need to hope that their coaching can develop some of these late-round picks that they're going to be forced to take. And I don't know if they're going to be able to do that considering they keep switching coaches. So it'll be very interesting to see what Lionel Hollins can do with the upcoming picks because this season is a lost hope.
But you look at Lionel Hollins, he really is not a bad coach. I mean, the guy's had a really good history, and he's the guy who turned Memphis into that big dominating squad.
They're a perennial NBA championship contender out in the Western Conference.
And they said that was one of the biggest mistakes the Grizzlies ever made was firing Lionel Hollins. And when the Nets hired him, you had to think, if he can turn the Grizzlies around, why can't he turn around Brooklyn?
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't showed so far, but I think if they continue to give him a chance, I think that he can use some of these upcoming draft picks, even though they're not in the first round. I think he can really get some good talent deep in the draft, and I think he can transform them into great players. And in a few years, I really like what the Nets can be doing.
And, of course, with all the badness the Nets have had, you look at – sorry, badness, I don't know if that's a word, but you look at the playoff picture. Sadly, because of how bad the East is, the Nets are the 8th playoff seed right now, on a 6-game losing streak.
Yeah. All right. So moving on from the NBA, let's talk real quick about college basketball. We got Rutgers and Seton Hall. Seton Hall in the top 25. Very impressive, led by Sterling Gibbs.
Lost to Butler last night.
Tough loss for them, but they've had very key wins against St. John's and Villanova. They've had a couple losses back in the last few games to Xavier and Butler, as you mentioned. But I think that what they've been able to accomplish so far this year is really impressive. I think the coaching and the senior leadership by Sterling Gibbs has transformed them into a really elite team, and I think that they can go far in the NCAA championship. And then our other local team, Rutgers.
Pull up the biggest upset of the year right now.
That's right. They beat a top 5 team in Wisconsin. The team was missing Frank Kaminsky, one of the best players in college basketball. But nonetheless, a Rutgers team that has not looked very good this year, pulling off a win of that magnitude, that shows that they're really
not gone yet.
Yeah, they're not that bad as a lot of people think. So I think that win should be able to give them a lot of momentum throughout the rest of the season. Maybe they can make some big moves in the Big Ten and have a good shot at making the NCAA tournament and making some moves.
Yeah, but you look at a team like Wisconsin. Yes, they have Kaminsky. Yes, he's one of the top players in the nation. But just because you're shorthanded, it doesn't mean that you still are not ranked number 2 in the country, or number 3, whatever they were, 2 or 3. They're number 2 or 3 in the country without Frank Kaminsky. He's on the bench. You're still ranked in the top 5. You should be able to.
Oh, yeah, no, it doesn't take anything away from.
You should still be able to perform.
It doesn't take anything away from Rutgers. They played a phenomenal game.
Yeah, I know, it doesn't.
But I think that if they can continue to play at this kind of level, obviously the Big Ten is one of the best conferences in terms of college basketball. So it'll be interesting to see how they fare against some of the other big-name schools Maryland is a top 15 team in the
Yeah, they're
country.
very good this year.
You got Ohio State, Michigan, Indiana, all exceptional college basketball teams. So it'll be interesting to see how record stacks up against them the rest of the year.
All right. Now moving on to our number 2 topic with high school sports. High school will actually be combining for topics 2 and 1, as we have a lot of high school sports to talk about. Let's start off with boys and girls basketball, Sam. Girls 2 and 7, they do have a game tomorrow at home and against Plainfield, actually. And Plainfield they have beat already, and they do have a good young team, but it just seems like there's a lot of good girls teams in this county.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that they have a really tough schedule. It's the same story with both of our basketball teams. So I think that the record for both boys and girls is not really a good reflection of the talent that both these teams have. I think that, as you mentioned, the young talent that we have on our team, even though it may not be showing right now, I think that by the time they mature and experience as seniors, I think that we'll be a very talented team in a couple of years. I think we have a good shot of making a run at the Union County title. I think that even though this year may not be our year, I think that the senior leadership that we have, I think that Tabitha Drumpour will really have a positive impact on the young girls that we have on the team, and I think that that'll help them mature into really talented basketball players in a couple of years down the road.
Yeah, I'm thinking so too. But right now, it looks like the freshmen who are on the team with Nia Downing and Brianna O'Brien, they're pretty solid players. I mean, it seems like that when they get older, they'll become very good high school players.
Yeah, once they just get bigger, I think that's the big key, size in basketball. So I think that once they have that aspect of their game to improve on, because their ball handling skills and their shooting, that's not the problem. It's just that it's hard for these freshmen going against experienced varsity members who are they're seniors. They're a lot bigger than some of these freshmen. So I think that size is just something that you have to wait on. You can't really work on your size. So I think that once that aspect of their game comes into play, that they'll be really, really good players.
Yeah, I think so too. Now let's go to the boys. The boys 3 and 6, they just defeated Delaware Valley 79-53 2 days ago. Very fun game to watch. I was there to announce that one. Leo Ramos in that game scoring 35 points. Unbelievable.
Yeah, the
and
kids
recently just broke the record for single points in the game, previously held by New York Knicks' Lance Thomas, who is an alumni here at this high school. Leo had 57 points in a game against Roselle.
Yeah, that's just insane. It was done in the triple overtime game against Roselle, in which we won by 2 points, 109-107. Yeah, so Leo Ramos just broke the NJ record, previously held by Tyler Ennis, of 53 points. Tyler Ennis went to St. Benedict's, graduated to be a exceptional player over at the University of Syracuse, then went from there, now plays in the NBA. So for Leo to break a record held by someone of that caliber is just exceptional. There's only so much more he can do. He's averaging over 45 points in his last 2 games with that 35-point performance over Del Val. He's really performing at the level that a lot of people expected him to this year. He's the star of this team, and I think if we continue to feed him the ball, good things are only going to happen because the kid has a lot of talent, and I think that he can do great for the rest of this team, and I think that he's going to be a really good player when it comes to college basketball.
Yeah, now the only bad thing about the basketball team this year really is that they have the absence of a big man, as last year graduating Jack Poulian and Quarry Bull.
Yeah.
And almost no replacements for them. So that's the only thing that is going against us when we play against the top teams. I mean, you play against teams like Westfield. Westfield's got a lot of big kids. You play against Union Catholic with Isaiah Still. Isaiah Still is a big man who can shoot threes and dribble the ball and play the point.
Yeah.
And you play against teams like Roselle Catholic, who have some really big guys. So, I mean, that's the only bad thing about it, is that when you play a lot of the top teams in the county who have some of the best big men in the state, I mean,
yeah,
we're outmatched.
I mean, you don't want to sell Danny Balico short. He's stepped up into the big man role, and he's played really good. He's not as big as a lot of these other seniors on some of these other top-name schools like Linden, Roselle Catholic, Union. But I think that given who he is, I think that he's stepped into the shoes of some of these other big guys that we've had in the past, like Tom Bonnicum, Jack Poulian, Quarry Bull. So I think that what he's been able to accomplish this year as the biggest guy in our team, but not necessarily one of the bigger guys in Union County, I think that you got to give him a round of applause because I think he deserves a lot of credit for what he's been able to do, given that he's outmanned by a lot of these other big guys. But he's had no other choice since he's bigger than most of the guys on our team.
Yeah, in that Roselle game, he actually did have 17 points.
Yeah, he
Leo
put
had
up
57.
he put up a solid double. I think he had 19 points, 17 rebounds. So that's really impressive. And I think that as he continues to gain more experience at the varsity level, he's only going to continue to improve. And I think that looking down the road at the rest of this season and next season, he's going to be one of our more dependent players in the upcoming years.
Yeah, and now move on from basketball. Let's go to hockey. Hockey coming off of a big 10-1 victory last night over Oratory Prep, and then another 10-1 victory their last game against Dayton/David Brearley.
Yeah, they've just been piling on the goals. They have no remorse. Nick Casara, Jared Figueroa, John Bruckman, David Young, some of the big name goal scorers for our team. Hats off to Mike Ilinowski yesterday. Had his first varsity start at the high school level. So congrats on that, Big Mike. But I think that the rest of the team, they're playing at an exceptional level. And I think aside from that game against Summit, which is one of the best teams in the state.
And we played well against them. It was only a 3-goal loss.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the best games we've had of them in the recent years. So I think that given some of the other games that we've had, we've showed that we're one of the top teams in Union County. And I think that with some of these insane goal-scoring efforts that we've had the last couple games, I think that we could really make a deep run in some of the upcoming tournaments that we have at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think so too. But the only thing is that Scotch Plains is in that tie for the first place in the division, and they're in the B division now. But you look, if they said that if they win the division, they can move back up to the A division, which looks good. But at the same time, you're like, do you really want that? Because then you're playing against the top schools. You're playing like Summit,
Yeah.
Cranford, Chatham.
I think
playing all
I
those
think you
schools.
do. I think you want to graduate up into the Division A because you want to be playing the highest competition at the level. So I think that it doesn't say much if you're just piling it on teams who aren't as good as you. I think you want to be challenging yourself, and I think that if we move up back into that A division, I think we'd be playing teams at maybe a higher level than us, but that'll only make us better. So I think we want to be playing the best competition that there is. So I think that if we can move up into Division A, if we win Division B this year, I think that'll be the best thing for the team.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that Scotch Plains this year, you look at the county bracket, they have a pretty solid shot to win the counties, or to at least become pretty close to first place. I mean, the only competitors you have in the county right now are Cranford and Summit. So with those two being the best teams in the county and Westfield not being what they used to, Scotch Plains has a pretty decent shot.
Yeah, I think they really do, and I think that I think they could either this year or one of the next couple of years.
Let's hope it does happen. I want to see that get in the state tournament. All right, so now let's move on from hockey. We'll go to one of our final sports on the show today, which will be boys and girls swimming, which we will also talk a little bit about later with our guest, sophomore swim sensation Chris Bonarovi. Welcome back to Rare Sports Radio. I'm Brett Mayerson.
I'm Sam Mahler.
And we are interviewing sophomore varsity swimming sensation Chris Bonarovitz. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing, Brett?
Good. So, Chris, we want to ask you, because we have a 5-minute limit here, what is the team's outlook on the season this year?
Pretty good. We have one loss only to Westfield. We've beaten pretty good teams like St. Peter's, and we've had a lot of fast swims this year.
Awesome. And how do you think you've been doing personally?
Personally, I think I've been doing pretty well. I've been hitting some pretty fast times that I haven't been hitting since last season.
Awesome. And, of course, we're going to ask this question because you guys lost in the championship last year. Do you see another state title coming this year?
Possibly. We definitely have a chance to win our section, which is Group B. So if we win that, we'd go to the state championship tournament. So we have a chance.
And who's your biggest competitor right now?
In our group, it's kind of hard to tell because our biggest meet has really been against Westfield, and they're not even in our group. So, it's kind of hard to tell, but definitely in our area, it would have to be Westfield.
All right. And how long have you been swimming?
I've been swimming since last year on this team, but I've been swimming before that since probably about 4th grade.
Wow, long time.
Yeah.
And do you swim for FISB as well?
Yeah,
Y?
I swim for FISB,
Wow.
the Y.
And do you go to the national championships with that? Or?
Yes, I was able to go to the long course national championships and qualify for the short course nationals in April this year.
Chris, could you tell us a little bit about that St. Peter's match? Because that was probably one of the biggest wins that you guys have had in a little while.
Yeah, so, when we showed up to the meet, everyone was pretty excited. We were really hoping that we'd be able to hold our own against them, and we did. We went in there, everybody decided to, bring their A game and stepped up, and we all swam pretty fast.
Yeah. That was big for you guys. That guy.
Yeah, it really
Yeah,
was.
that propelled you further into the top 20. So congrats on that big win.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
Congrats on that one, definitely. And that wraps up for our interview with Chris Bonner-Roberts. I'm Brett Mayerson.
And I'm Sam Mahler.
We'll see you next week.
If you could just do us a favor and sign our lovely Wall of
Yeah.
Fame.
Before we go, actually, please sign the Wall of Fame.
All right. All right.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you.
man. Have
All
a
right.
good one.
We'll
You
see you
too.
next week. Go Raiders.